This is Octave Leap. Innovation, regeneration, and human optimization.
Hello, folks, and welcome to the Octave Leap live stream, coming at you every Tuesday at 4 p.m. London time. And today, we're going to be talking about a very interesting subject, a subject that personally I got into a couple of years ago when I went to see an astrologer, and I do use it myself, so I think this is going to be a fairly interesting conversation. But today, we're going to take a look at having a dialogue around this with somebody else. So our guest today used to be in business and marketing, but discovered astrocartography, or astrogeography as it can be called, while traveling, and decided to make a more in-depth study of astrology and this particular branch of astrology. So I'd love to present Sarah Robinson to the Octave Leap live stream today. And here she is. Hello, Sarah. So good to have you on the show yet again. Last time you came on with your troupe, the House of Flying Artists, and today you're back to talk about something very different. How's it going today?
Very well, David. Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this.
Great. So we're going to be talking about stars and places today. I think we have quite a good turnout as well. So I think this is an interesting topic for people. People seem very excited to be getting into this. So I guess the first thing to talk about is, how did you find this? This is not something that, most people say when they grow up and they do those little surveys at school and they're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I haven't heard anyone say astrocartographer before, so I'd love to hear your story with that.
Right. They don't teach this in school, right? Unfortunately. Nobody grows up, I think, saying, I want to be an astrologer. It's kind of something you discover by accident or not, perhaps. So my story is I did the whole corporate thing, and I came across astrology when I was traveling the east coast of Australia. Completely by accident, I went to an open day at one of these woo-woo colleges of all things spiritual and magical in Sydney. It's called Nature Care College. And I just found myself in one of the rooms there. That was somebody who became my teacher later on, was doing a talk about astrology. And I had no idea about astrology other than that I knew I was a Pisces and I used to read it in the newspaper when I went to my grandma's house. But from the first moment, I was just completely captivated by this. And I mean, I was bumming around living in a camper van, traveling the East Coast, but I decided to stay in Sydney for a whole year, be about 5 or 6 years ago now, and study astrology very in depth. And it's like learning a whole new language. I tried to learn Spanish a month ago and my heart just wasn't in it. I lasted about 3 days, but because I was so fascinated, yeah, it was a great time. So from there, I've kind of taken it on and I've picked it up and dropped it. And then I've decided to really specialize in astrocartography, also known as astrogeography or location astrology, because I find that to be the most fascinating. So it's kind of a niche of a niche.
What drew you to that? What drew you specifically to astrocartography or astrogeography?
Well, when I actually saw my map for the first time, there was such aha moments. It really changed my life. As it sounds like a bit of a cliche, but when I realized that I was born on my Mars line, and that's why to be in this town where I'm born, I've always been it's quite a restless place to be. Just to explain a little bit. So maybe I should explain how the astrocartography actually works. So it takes your birth chart and it lays that over the globe. So everybody has a map personal to them, which shows them what specific energies they would likely experience in different parts of the globe. So if we know this, it's kind of like, you know how it said that life doesn't really come with a manual, but it kind of does in a sense. I mean, you take this with a pinch of salt, but I found it very useful for me. So then I made it a kind of exploration to talk to others, show them their map, because I was just interested to see if other people also resonated. And then it was just kind of a exploration which rolled into me doing sessions, and here we are.
Just to add to that, it's kind of like when you have your birth chart, depending on the exact place, it's the exact what was happening in the sky, right? But like there was different things happening in different parts of the world because as we all know, there's different time zones. So the sun's in different places and all the planets, you know. So it's sort of like you just rotate the chart, and that certain planets will hit like the 4 cardinal points on the astrology chart. But what is it? Why is it so important for a planet to hit one of these lines, one of those cardinal points?
So yes, so the birth chart is a snapshot of the sky at the moment you were born, and in order to cast that chart, you need date of birth, time of birth, and place of birth. So we cast that over the map, and then we are given a map of the globe which has on it many lines which each pertain to a planet, and also the axes come into it as well, and also the all your placements in your birth chart. So it's very specific. It will show you how you experience a place essentially. So just to give an example, where I have Mars and Jupiter on my ascendant, and I just so happened to be born right on my Mars ascendant line, which I experience as whenever I'm in this particular place, it's like being on the back of a crazy horse and wanting it to stand still, which is, I mean, Mars is a great energy. If you know it's there, you kind of need to know you're on the horse so you can point it in a certain direction. But if you don't know that, it's quite difficult. And then I ended up in Sydney, where it just so happens to be my Sun and Venus descendant, all about relationships. My Sun and Venus is in Pisces, so when I was there, I was exploring all things mystical and magical and unseen, and that's where I discovered astrology. So that really clicked and resonated with me, and then it turned into this big exploration.
So what more can you say about these lines that run through the world for people? Like, what have you seen? I guess that would be the thing. When you're reading for people or looking at yourself, what really hit you and go, oh, wow, like, isn't that amazing that this is written in this chart, this manual of life, and the person or myself is having an experience that matches that? Can you give some practical examples?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different scenarios, and it can be used for so many different things. You know, I have people come to me and they say, "I really love where I am, but my young child, for example, is finding this place really difficult. Can you please look at both our charts and see why are we experiencing this place in this certain way? Perhaps is there a better place for us both to be to visit, or to, because you can bring in this in other ways as well. You don't necessarily have to go to a place, and there's many different scenarios how this can be beneficial if you want to look for somewhere to retire, or you want to go and write a book, for example, you would go on your Mercury line. Yeah, many different things, many different scenarios. Do you know where you are right now? Because you have the software, right?
Yeah, I've got the software. Do you want me to do you want me to do some? Do you want to? Yeah, do you want to have some fun with this? Do you want to like open up a chart and just see what happens if someone were to move around?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Okay, so I've got Solar Fire open. Who do you have any ideas for a chart? I'm not sure I really want to do my own. Put it out publicly.
You can do mine if you like.
Okay, if you're cool with that, let's do Sarah Robinson. All right, what should I type in here for? What's that?
I'm going to tell everyone my age now. So you need my date of birth. It's the 6th of the 3rd, 1989.
6th of March, 1989. Cool. Time?
Born at 8:47 a.m.
8:47 a.m. Yep.
In Grimsby, United Kingdom.
Okay. All right. So, I believe I can pull up your chart fairly easily here.
Yeah, this is great because then everybody can see what the map actually looks like. And I warn you, it looks a bit like Chinese because it's a whole other language, astrology, but very fascinating one.
Okay, so here we've got your chart pulled up.
And then on Solarfy, you click the globe icon at the top.
Oh, cool. Okay. So this is fancy astrology software. Where's the globe icon? Do I need to go back to the main one, or is it on this page here? I think I have to go to this one, right? Yeah, I do the globe. Okay, cool.
It's at the top of the main one.
So I've got these like 1980s graphics. I'm just going to pull up the globe just so people can actually see what we're looking at here. Here we go. So this is the globe. You can tell this is an old globe because this is called Zaire down here. Zaire is no longer a country. So where are we looking? Where are we off to?
Can you go on, if you click maps at the top and you go, okay, no, that's better. Okay. So can you zoom in on the UK, please?
Sure. Let me just figure out how to zoom in. Actually, I haven't used it on Solarfar before. I normally, because I found this interface to be a bit strange.
So this is what the map looks like, and you can see that all the lines, essentially each line represents a different planet, and also the axes come into it as well. So you have, as you know, David, you have 4 axes in astrology which represent different things. So there's planets. There's such a lot to take into account. There's the planets, the aspects in the chart come into it as well. Like, for example, if you have a conjunction in your chart, you're going to have those 2 planets together on the map. You've got the axes, and then you need to take into account everything in the chart, really. So it's like this fun puzzle that I've just been spent time working out, and because I enjoy it, you kind of have to enjoy this to because it's very complicated, astrology. My teacher used to say it's a lifelong study. You'll never fully know it all.
So we've got the UK up, and we've got this white line running through there, and people might not be able to see it, but it does have the symbol of Mars, and it says AS, which is short for Ascendant. So where do we go from here?
Okay, so Mars represents all things. It's very masculine, fire, all things drive, get shit done kind of energy. And the ascendant is all about the self. So it's how I experience, and people experience, everyone would experience this slightly differently in their own way, but essentially it's a very charged, I experience it like sitting on it's like a rocket wanting to shoot itself or something. I kind of had to have some sort of somewhere to aim myself at when I'm on this planetary line, because it's not necessarily a relaxing energy. Mars is very, very masculine, very let's get it done. Compared to if you lived on your Venus line, for example, that would be a very much more relaxing and peaceful place. Venus is all about beauty, love, relationships. So the key to this is awareness. If we're aware of these things, it can be very helpful to understanding how we're experiencing where we are. Also, how we experienced other places we've been, and maybe are there places where we'd like to go if we want to focus on a specific thing, like writing a book or retiring or going to find the love of your life, all kinds of different scenarios.
So let's figure out what goes into a reading. So let's say you described Mars as being this very energizing, restless force. Let's say maybe you wanted to go somewhere and have more contemplative time. So you wanted to go and contemplate and know thyself and kind of figure out yourself. First of all, what factors would you look at when you're discerning that from your astrogeography chart?
Well, the self is the ascendant, so I'd be looking at the ascendant lines, and possibly Neptune, looking into spirituality, the unseen, that sort of thing.
Okay, so in your case, let's just go here. So in your case, where's that window? So we want to zoom out, I think, or we want to zoom out.
I have Neptune in Wanaka, New Zealand, where I lived once, and the south of Mexico, and I did find that very true to experience.
Do you know how to zoom out on this one? I actually don't.
Press previous.
Previous, okay.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, it's very clunky. Okay, so here
it was clunky, so
yeah.
And
great software for other things, but okay, so you mentioned New Zealand. So here we go. Look, you've got this Mars energy again there, but then looks like is this where did you say that Neptune line was running?
Wanaka,
there it is. Right there.
Right. So Wanaka
here, yeah, I see. Gotcha.
Right where that line is. And it's conjunct Saturn as well, which can be quite challenging, and I always say with these lines, with these planets, there's no good and bad. There's just different, it's more of a spectrum of easeful and challenging, right? So if you know you're on your Mars line or your Pluto line, for example, and it's going to be challenging, it makes it somewhat easier, because you know that you're there, and it's going to be very rewarding at the same time.
I guess it's kind of like you're able to see the higher meaning behind there, right? So Saturn typically in astrology is seen as being like an old man that's like kind of punitive in a way, tries to make you learn his lessons. On the other hand, it's not all negative, because some astrologers say that if you appeal to Saturn, your Saturn placement, you really understand it, you really understand the lessons you're here to learn, you'll have a much easier life. So, if you really internalize the greatness of Saturn and what you need to do for that placement and how it shows up in your life, you'll have an easeful life because you'll meet those lessons with dignity as opposed to always being blindsided by them. But in this case, we have Saturn, which represents structure, stability, rules, lessons, patience, delays, like a slow sort of progression. Then we have Neptune, which is like creativity and like spirituality and all is one and no boundaries. So how do the two of those go together? Is it like, that's like what a dichotomy there?
Let me tell you, it's very confusing. You're Capricorn, right?
Totally, yeah.
And I'm Pisces, so there you go. It's like it's opposites energy. It's been very interesting to explore that in my life, and to explore that in that very particular place. And it's very interesting that I lived exactly on that line, and this tends to happen, and I find this a lot. We are subconsciously somehow, by whoever, whatever you want to call it, drawn to these places. And that's why I love to show this map to people, because it's just amazing to see it. It makes so much sense. And it's pretty magical, and it boggles my mind sometimes. I like to think about where astrology actually came from. That's an interesting.
We haven't really found an origin yet, have we? In all human civilizations, like it's ubiquitous. I mean, it was in South America and India and the Middle East thousands of years ago, like 6,000 years ago, and there's similarities between them. Like even in the Vedic system and the Western system, they have the same, they chose the same constellations in the sky. They have the same energetic meaning. It's like, whoa, like how did these groups of people that weren't talking back then figure this out?
Yeah.
Unless, of course, there really was an alien super race that created us and just like disseminated the information to all the corners of the earth. I'm kidding. But actually, I don't know. I really don't know.
The internet will tell you that astrocartography was invented in the 40s by some American dude. Yeah, I don't buy it. I think that it's innate in us. It's a very ancient body of knowledge, which I've kind of picked up and then put down a lot over the last sort of 6 or 7 years. But it's very fascinating. Actually, in a lot of indigenous cultures, astrology is still very much there. When I was in Mexico last month, I learned that they only send their children to school at the time where that child is under its individual moon sign. So you take a child was born under a balsamic moon, for example. They believe that child will only take in information during the 5 days around that moon phase. Therefore, they won't try to teach them anything for the other 23 days of the month, and find it to be very a great way to do it, which I find fascinating.
It's really interesting because I mean I don't think everybody in the world needs to have these live detailed ways according to their astrology, but when you do learn a little bit about it, it's such a powerful tool for really unraveling all the layers of ourselves. So if people do have an opportunity, astrology showed me very clearly that I was much better off running my own business than working for somebody else. And that's why I felt like I could never work for anyone else, and I was never interested in it, and it was always a grind. And then working for myself became the most fascinating, interesting, compelling thing I could do. So I mean, it's very powerful to give you that reassurance. But a lot of the time, I think we intuitively gravitate to these places and things as well. However, of course, like anyone, we can always have doubts or indecision or not knowing if sometimes we need a little bit of reassurance. And so looking at the chart might help us with something like that. I do want to ask you though, we've talked a lot about the ascendant line, but we have also indicated that there's 4 of them for people. So how do planets affect differently on each of those 4 cardinal points? And the 4 cardinal points, I'll just write those out here for people in a banner. But we have ascendant, and while you're answering, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So the 4 are MC at the top, IC at the bottom, AC on this is the ascendant, and then DC on the right. So MC is external. It's all about how others see you. So this can be pertaining to career or reputation, this sort of thing. The IC on the bottom is all about home and belonging. The AC is all about the self, and then DC is about relationships, all relationships.
Okay, so basically we have 4 lines for every planet, right? So 4 positions, and so the energy of each planet will affect us differently based on which one of those points it's falling on.
Yeah. So there's the flavor and the subject, if you like. And then you take into account the houses as well. You need to look at the chart itself and where those planets are falling in what houses. So there's a lot to it. I spend a few hours before each call looking at the chart, making notes, and then for an hour discussing, presenting them. And then at the end, I emailed the map, a key to read the map so everyone can read this map themselves forevermore, and also the notes that we discuss in the call.
Brilliant. What kind of things do people come and ask you? Like if they were going to, let's say, have a session with you on relocation, what types of things are useful for people to seek answers about?
Well, to be honest, it's a mixture of very specific and just pure curiosity. I'm just so curious about this sort of thing anyway. I couldn't not look at it, but some examples of specific things like I really want to start a blog or write a book, and I just can't concentrate where I am. I just want to bugger off for 3 months and go and write this book, for example, which, I mean, there's new layers of new hoops to jump through with travel these days anyway, but it's always useful. Where to retire, or just understanding where you are and how the energy is, how you are interacting with that specific land where you are.
You know what I might do, actually? I might just pull up, instead of pulling up my actual birth chart, I might just pull up the map, and we can just have a little bit of fun, and I could ask you some questions about me with my little map chart, and we can cool. All right, so here we go.
Because you've lived in a few countries, haven't you, David? So it's fun to
I have lived in a few countries. Yeah. So
where have you lived?
I've lived, well, in my whole life or more recently. So the last 5 years now, I've been sort of on my world tour. I've lived in Costa Rica, Bali, Australia, now South Africa. So yeah, I've lived in a couple places. I was in Arizona for a little while as well.
Can you go and zoom into your birthplace, please?
Sure. Yeah, let's start with that. So my birthplace is right here. That would be right over here.
Okay. Can you see what are the lines? I can't. They're very small on my end. What are the
So I've got
lines?
Saturn on the ascendant to the left, and I've got Chiron on the descendant to the right.
Okay.
I guess that would be good for, having groovy, like carefree parties, right? Not so much.
right. So where there are no lines is kind of neutral, and each line you'll feel that energy very strongly exactly on the line, but around 400 miles each side. So I know Canada's a very vast country. I'm not sure how big this area is, but yeah, I mean,
that area that would be about probably about 400 miles. That would be about 400 miles. So it would be kind of right in that shadow between the Chiron and the Saturn there.
Okay. Yeah, you might have got off with it then.
But put it this way, I didn't like living here. I lived here until I was 18. And then I was like, man, I can't stand this place. Actually, even when I go back now, I feel very restricted. I feel very much like, it makes me feel like I'm in like being kind of like squashed into like a little box in a way. And just nothing really happens. There's no magic.
Well, you are squashed between those two planets. And for anyone listening, those two planets are more on the challenging end of the spectrum. So, when it's just, I find it really helpful to know these things. It brings a whole new level of.
I mean, looking back on that now, it makes a lot of sense. But 18-year-old Dave would just be like, I got to get the hell out of here. So what did I do when I was 18? I said, that's it. I'm going to move myself over to Vancouver, which is on the west coast here of Canada. And I actually really liked it here. And you can see my sun is very, very close to the IC line. So probably within 50 miles of the IC line.
Where is I can't see it very well on my screen.
That little dashed line running through.
Okay. Yes, so that would be sun IC, feelings of belonging. Were you happy there?
Yeah. It's the only thing I wasn't happy about was that Vancouver is one of the most, like, Canada's a very expensive place to live, especially for housing. And it was like the most expensive place. So I felt when I was there, the only issue I had was I didn't feel like I was getting ahead. And I only lived there until I was about 28. So after that, I moved again. But where did I move after that? That's a good question. I see I'm constantly on the road, it seems, but I'm not. Let's go back here. So I'll show you next. Oh, right here. And this was, look, I got Pluto on the Ascendant.
Okay.
So Pluto. There.
Transformation.
Definitely. Very slow transformation, put it like that. It's a very slow, drawn out transformational time. But yeah, in many ways, it was great. I mean, when I lived there, I sort of came into my own stride, my own sort of, my own sense of confidence and knowledge really kind of came forward, and had a lot of time for nature, a lot of time to explore, a lot more disposable income to go traveling and kind of figure things out for myself. So, but a lot of loneliness as well. It was very cold winters we have there, very dark. So that was the only downside, I guess, to the thing. But it's interesting to see. And so I'd ask you now, if just for fun, so I'll pretend to be your client. If I was looking for a place to go where, let's just say my live stream business could flourish, and it would be the place to go to set myself up as being sort of the interview guy for innovation and all sorts of new frequency stuff, where would I want to look?
I'd be looking at, well, the MC, which is all about the external, getting out into the world, reputation, career, that sort of thing. So MC lines. And
so I'm just on a hunt for my MC line. Oh, I've got Saturn on the MC. I've got Pluto on the MC. Those are probably not the ones I want, right?
You're wanting Mercury, the sun, and Jupiter as well. Jupiter, because
Mercury,
Jupiter
the
brings,
sun.
yeah.
Oh. Well, in Cape Town, I've got my south node and I've got Venus on the midheaven.
Oh, I like it.
Oh, that's nice. That's why I like it here, I think. But I found Jupiter on the midheaven. It looks like it goes through maybe if I want to move to Western Russia or like, Ukraine or somewhere in Turkey or Egypt. Seems to be where it's running, or else Mozambique. Looks pretty groovy.
Did you say so you've got Mercury conjunct Venus in your chart, do you?
No, I have South Node Venus over here in Cape Town.
South Node Venus, interesting. Okay. Yeah, nice. And does it run exactly through where you are now?
Very close. Like I'm like down here, and it's like right there.
Isn't it funny how we end up on these lines?
I know.
I mean, there's a lot of land where there's no lines, isn't there?
I know. There's a lot of lines that there's no, like that sun you were talking about, though. So it's like running through like Iran. Again, these are like countries I'm probably not going to live in, like Siberia, Kazakhstan, the middle of the ocean. There's these islands here. I think this is what, like the Seychelles. I'm not sure exactly. That's or Mauritius, maybe.
So in that case, you can bring the energy of that place in other ways. Like, for example, if you were wanting to bring in Africa, you would bring in Prince music. I don't know, decorate your room in Ghanaian Prince. There's other ways to bring it in. You don't need to move to Ukraine. I wouldn't find it right now.
So you could almost borrow something or an aspect of the culture that has those qualities.
Yes, and also often people from those places will appear in your life. Very fascinating. So living on your south node, the north and south node in astrology is it's karma and mission, isn't it? Or past lives, and that's what Western astrology says. And on the south node, you can experience a lot of deja vu. Do you have that?
Deja vu. It feels very familiar where I'm living now, even though this is like, it feels familiar. And I keep saying that. And I have this maybe misnomer that I keep saying, hey, I feel very at home with South African people. Like I feel like they kind of get me and I get them. But maybe it's because there's these underlying astrological phenomena that's happening at the same time.
Maybe, yeah. A feeling of being there before, or you just fit in with the people somehow, even though you're not from there. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Like I've lived in other places, like South Africa, it's very, Dutch colonialism and British colonialism, right? But so is Australia. But Australia for me felt much different, whereas South Africa feels like almost like, because Canada is also a colony. So basically it feels like there's sort of more sort of similarity in culture between South Africa and Canada than Australia and Canada, in my experience.
What do you have in Australia?
Oh, let's go zoom over there. And why don't you tell me what my experience, what the lines say my experience may have been. So I used to live here, and I had Mars on the IC, and I used to live on the east coast of Australia.
Okay. Yeah, I'm very careful. I'm very careful to tell people what their experience is. I don't do that.
What the chart suggests. Let's do that. That's what I say. Yeah, what the chart suggests.
Mars is Mars is energy, drive, a lot of tenacity, masculine energy, and the IC is home, but they're a bit conflicting. So, what did you settle there? Was it more of a?
No, I didn't settle there. There's a lot of. I wasn't home a lot. There was a lot of either traveling to other places or moving between homes?
Okay. Well, I have that in the UK, and I can't stay in one place here. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that's it. But also, David, we create our own reality, don't we? So it's like there's this layer here, and we can use it for inspiration or for what it's worth. And also, we can decide to throw it all out the window and say, okay, I'm aware of that, but now I have the awareness, I can act accordingly.
Yeah. So it's not meant to victimize us, right? Sometimes people put themselves in boxes with astrology.
Yeah,
I try to open the boxes again.
we don't need any new Bibles or.
No, we definitely don't. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were like, but, we're entering into this multi-dimensional way of living, and, I don't feel like astrology or human design apply anymore, and this and that. And I'm like, look, I mean, it's a tool. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes people step outside of it. It's like, it's never that we have to live by one thing all the time. And I think that's something people get stuck on. They want to listen to one person. They want to go to one source of information. They want one thing that's going to tell them everything about reality, but no such thing exists. I think the nature of reality is far too much fluid to pin it down with, one system. But I think what astrology does is it begins a dialogue in a particular direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
It gives us the thread for us to unravel on our own. And I feel like maybe using that, like you said, I like the word curious, right? Because curious is open to see. There's openness to see what lies there, as opposed to being like, oh, I'm definitely going to experience this when I go there.
Yeah, because then you're not open to anything else.
Yeah. It's funny though that you say that, especially because I knew somebody that wanted to go to Tulum, Mexico, and just for fun, I pulled up her chart, and lo and behold, it was like right between Saturn and Pluto. And Tulum is very nice, and there's a lot of yoga culture there and that type of thing. And she went there, and she had just like a really rough transformative experience, essentially. So it goes to show that even though you might be in a place that other people are experiencing all this beautiful tropical living, if it jives in a certain way with your astrology, that doesn't matter. It's sort of like there's a layer that would superimpose on top of that.
Right. Tulum could be a beautiful place, and you go with your mate, but they might have Venus on Tulum, and you've got Pluto or Chiron. You're going to have completely different experiences, even though you're standing side by side. That's just how it is.
Exactly. Well, I think we have quite a few questions that are coming up in the chat. So was there anything else you want to dive into on astrogeography, or do you want to go into some questions?
No, I think that was fun. I enjoyed it. It's fun to look at yours, and yeah, let's hear the questions.
All right. So, Micah, do you want to start pulling up some questions for us, or for Sarah to answer? I might jump in too, since I have some knowledge here. So we're being asked, all my birth records have been lost apparently in Calgary, Alberta, according to the hospital I was born. Is there some way I can get a good chart without a time of birth?
Okay, this is very common. Unfortunately, hospitals often don't write down the birth time, which is very strange. But essentially, yes, there are ways to find out your birth time. Often, our mothers they think they know the time, but they got it wrong, or it was lost or deceased. All kinds of scenarios. So often hear this. Kinesiology is a good way, or you can contact a dowser who can dowse it for you, and I found that to be very accurate. As long as you have the time roughly within the 2-hour range, it's going to be good.
So you want about a 2-hour window for time because of the way that sort of the chart changes every 2 hours. It's in a different house. Cool. What about chart rectifications? Did you ever encounter that when you were studying astrology?
No. Have
Yeah.
you?
I find they're few and far between, but I do know of 2 people who do rectifications, but they're not easy to find, these people, and usually it's a bit of a process.
My teacher never did it, but I used to go to astrology conferences. There's a lot of astrology conferences. Actually, I was at an astrology conference in Melbourne, right before the whole Corona thing kicked off, at the beginning of the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, which was it was a world conference, and everyone from all over the world came to Sydney. Probably one of the last times that would happen, to Melbourne, sorry. So I got to meet so many astrologers, really long-standing astrologers from all over the world, who specialize in different things. And that's the beauty of astrology. There's so much to it, so many types, so many areas you can specialize in. But no, I don't know anyone that does that, unfortunately.
Okay.
Not as a specialty.
Vanessa's asking, what are the most challenging lines to live on?
Vanessa, Chiron, Pluto, Saturn, I would say. Yeah.
They all have to deal with, structure, lessons, transformation, and healing, though, right? So, I mean, in the end, it's not bad. They're just maybe there's a more serious tone to them.
No good or bad. Yeah. Just a walk in the park and challenging but rewarding.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what we need. Sometimes we don't need to, we're just been beaten down by life lessons, and we just need to go play on the beach and eat some fruit for a while, right?
Right. Bit of respite.
Susan's asking, we'll put it in a question. Where can I find the love of my life? Wow, that's one you must hear a lot as an astrologer, right?
Venus
People
descendant.
want to know about Venus descendant. Okay, so in that case, it's pretty easy to find that, right? Descendant is another person. Venus is obviously love, romance, that type of thing. Cool.
I've
been told that the archons designed astrology.
What do you think about that, David?
Well, I don't know what archons are.
I've never looked into it. Archons.
Okay. Cool. Let's. Lori's saying, hi, everyone from Vancouver Island. I am open to finding my new home or territory at the moment and would love to have more insight that our astrogeography can bring. I'll jump in here. I think if somebody asked me that question, I would ask, what are you looking for in a home, right? Because what quality of home do you need is probably the first question. And then you can look more at those qualities, because I think a home could be many things, right? Like it could be a home to retire. Some planets are better to retire, right? And some ones are better to have a warm home with social life and people coming in and out and community and that type of thing. Other ones might be, a home to learn and grow, for instance.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. We do have a couple more questions here. And I'll save one for the end that Di is asking. But Nicola is saying, I have Pluto and Chiron where I am. Any tips since they're the most challenging? Oof.
Any tips? Just know that there is a reason why you're finding it challenging. If you're finding that place challenging, there is a reason for it, which in itself I find very comforting to have that knowledge, and also to know that it's extremely rewarding. And I don't know if you were born on that line, but like for example, if if you were born on your Pluto and Chiron line, especially where they intersect, because where two lines intersect is stronger still, was that a choice? You know, is it how we ended up there somehow? And for example, with me, I personally find it challenging to live right on top of my Mars line, but also I managed to materialize myself here of all places for a reason, is what I believe. So that helped.
We're getting asked, is there a place you recommend where we can look up our chart? Astro.com will allow you to do free charts and free astrocartography as well.
Astro.com. There is yes, they do free maps, which is great. Yeah, you can have a look there.
Cool. And then, of course, we have a question that I think would lead us into a natural segue anyway, but where can we contact Sarah for reading and advice?
Hello, Di. I'm not on social media. The way to contact me is by email.
And that email would be this one, Where to Thrive. Oops.
Yeah.
That one?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. So if you're at all curious, just pop me an email and we can book in a chat and see what your map says.
Yeah, I think it's a very helpful thing, especially if people are maybe already drawn somewhere, like they're planning a trip somewhere. It might be interesting to get a perspective on what might lie there for them, what energies might be present, or maybe not. Sometimes it's better not to know, because if we have a strong mind, sometimes we can overlay them with expectations. But for others, it might be helpful. It might be helpful to know.
Yes, it's not for everyone. It's a niche of a niche. Definitely the path less walked, but I enjoy it. It's what fascinates me. So
great. Yeah, especially in these days where, we're still, it's a lot of talk of relocation, right? It's sort of as the world shifts and as people, feel called to find maybe their community or their home, there's a lot of talk about, moving, especially too, where like, we're waking up and finding out that, oh my goodness, the lives that we're living are not suitable for us and not suitable for where we want to go. And there's something about this point in history where it feels like anything's possible. It feels like everything's crumbling and anything's possible. And so, all those dreams that were sitting in the back of your mind for many years, they can kind of maybe have some life now. And I think with that comes the spontaneous desire to travel, perhaps. And I've seen that in a lot of people recently.
Yeah, there's never been a better time to do whatever the hell you like.
It's been so lovely having you on the show, Sarah, again for the second time. And I really hope people I'll put her email up again. But I hope people shoot you an email and reach out regarding maybe having some of their location-specific questions answered. I find this really fun to do as well. So I really enjoy getting these read. I enjoy reading them for people too. So I completely understand how much of a thrill and how precious it is to be able to connect in this way. So if you're interested, shoot Sarah an email and go from there and see what comes up. Sounds like Sarah puts a lot of effort and attention and time into her readings as well, doing them for hours beforehand. So, yeah.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been fun. And see you guys soon.
Thank you. All right. I'll see you soon, Sarah. And for everybody else, thank you very much for coming on the show today. It's been a pleasure. Now, remember, if you're on Telegram, please join the Octave Leap Telegram group, as it's the best way to stay informed, not only of these events, but anything else we're doing. And there's lots of free giveaways, workshops, whatever we've got planned. The Telegram group will always hear about it first. So please join the Telegram group if you're on Telegram. And aside from that, everybody, have yourself a great day. There's going to be, I just want one more announcement. There's going to be a whole new thing coming to Octave Leap, which is going to be our soundtrack of the revolution. So I'm going to start putting on music videos that I've created that are lyrics and their imagery and their music that are basically meant to be part of this revolution that we're a part of. And I believe that the greatest way to change things is through art, music, and media, the creative forces. So I hope you'll check it out, and you'll obviously hear about it if you're signed up for the Telegram group. All right, folks. Anyways, I will see you next week. Same great place, same great time. And next week, we're going to have Martin Richfeld and his wife Marie on, and they're going to talk about not only natural conception, but also they're going to talk about intimacy, sensuality, and they've had a really incredible marriage for 9 years, and so they're going to come on and they're going to speak about love, intimacy, and natural conception. So it's going to be a very interesting, different flavor of episode. But I will see you all then. Goodbye.
This is Octave Leap. Innovation, regeneration, and human optimization.